The 30th word. This word explains the talisman of creation by solving an important talisman of the all-wise Quran. It is an explanation of ene and zere to the extent of an alif and a point. It consists of two aims. The first of these concerns the nature and result of the human eye, and the second, the motion and duties of minute particles. First aim. In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate. We did indeed offer the trust to the heavens and the earth and the mountains, but they refused to undertake it, being afraid thereof. But man assumed it. Indeed, he is most unjust, most foolish. We shall indicate a single jewel from the great treasure of this verse as follows. The eye is one component, one aspect of the numerous aspects of the trust, from the bearing of which the sky, earth, and mountains shrank, and of which they were frightened. Indeed, from the time of Adam until now, the eye has been the seed of a terrible tree of Zaqqum, and at the same time of a luminous tree of Tuba, which shoot out branches around the world of mankind. Before attempting to elucidate this vast truth, we shall give an explanation by way of an introduction which will facilitate the understanding of it. Just as the eye is the key to the divine names, which are hidden treasures, so is it the key to the locked talisman of creation. It is a problem-solving riddle, a wondrous talisman. When its nature is known, both the eye itself, that strange riddle, that amazing talisman is disclosed, and it discloses the talisman of the universe and the treasures of the necessary world. We have discussed this problem as follows in my Arabic treatise, Semme, Intimations. The key to the world is in the hand of man and is attached to his self. For while being apparently open, the doors of the universe are in fact closed. God Almighty has given to man, by way of a trust, such a key, called the eye, that it opens all the doors of the world. He has given him an enigmatic eye with which he may discover the hidden treasures of the Creator of the universe. But the eye is also an extremely complicated riddle and a talisman that is difficult to solve. When its true nature and the purpose of its creation are known, as it is itself solved, so will be the universe. The all-wise Maker gave to man, as a trust, an eye which comprises indications and samples that show and cause to recognize the truths of the attributes and functions of his dominicality, so that the eye might be a unit of measurement and the attributes of dominicality and functions of divinity might be known. However, it is not necessary for a unit of measurement to have actual existence. Like hypothetical lines in geometry, a unit of measurement may be formed by hypothesis and supposition. It is not necessary for its actual existence to be established by concrete knowledge and proofs. Question: why is knowledge of the attributes and names of God Almighty connected to the eye? The answer: since an absolute and all-encompassing thing has no limits or end, neither may a shape be given to it, nor may a form be conferred on it, nor may it be determined. What its quiddity is may not be comprehended. For example, an endless light without darkness may not be known or perceived. But if a line of real or imaginary darkness is drawn, then it becomes known. Thus, since God Almighty's attributes like knowledge and power, and names like all-wise and all-compassionate are all-encompassing, limitless, and without like, they may not be determined, and what they are may not be known or perceived. Therefore, since they do not have limits or an actual end, it is necessary to draw a hypothetical and imaginary limit. The I does this. It imagines in itself a fictitious dominicality, ownership, power, and knowledge. It draws a line. By doing this, it places an imaginary limit on the all-encompassing attributes, saying, up to here, mine. After that, his. It makes a division. With the tiny units of measurement in itself, it slowly understands the true nature of the attributes. For example, with its imagined dominicality over what it owns, the I may understand the dominicality of its creator over contingent creation. And with its apparent ownership, it may understand the true ownership of its creator, saying, like I am the owner of this house, so too is the creator the owner of the universe. And with its partial knowledge, it may understand his knowledge, and with its small amount of acquired art, it may understand the originative art of the glorious maker. For example, the I says, as I made this house and arranged it, so someone must have made the universe and arranged it, and so on. Thousands of mysterious states, attributes, and perceptions, which make known and show to a degree all the divine attributes and functions are contained with the I. That is to say, the I is mirror-like, and, like a unit of measurement and tool for discovery, it has an indicative meaning. Having no meaning in itself, it shows the meaning of others. It is a conscious strand from the thick rope of the human being, a fine thread from the raiment of the essence of humanity. It is an aleph from the book of the character of mankind, and it has two faces. The first of these faces looks towards good and existence. With this face, it is only capable of receiving favor. It accepts what is given. Itself it cannot create. This face is not active. It does not have the ability to create. Its other face looks towards evil and goes to non-existence. That face is active. It has the power to act. Furthermore, the real nature of the I is indicative. It shows the meaning of things other than itself. Its dominicality is imaginary. Its existence is so weak and insubstantial that in itself it cannot bear or support anything at all. Rather, it is a sort of scale or measure, like a thermometer or barometer, that indicates the degrees and amounts of things. It is a measure that makes known the absolute, all-encompassing, and limitless attributes of the necessary being. Thus, he who knows his own self in this way and realizes and acts according to it is included in the good news of, truly he succeeds who purifies it. He truly carries out the trust, and through the telescope of his eye, he sees what the universe is and what duties it is performing. When he obtains information about the universe, he sees that his eye confirms it. This knowledge will remain as light and wisdom for him, and will not be transformed into darkness and futility. When the I fulfills its duty in this way, it abandons its imaginary dominicality and supposed ownership, which are the units of measurement, and it says, His is the sovereignty, and to Him is due all praise. His is the judgment, and to Him will you all be brought back. It achieves true worship. It attains the rank of the most excellent of patterns. But if, forgetting the wisdom of its creation and abandoning the duty of its nature, the I views itself solely in the light of its nominal and apparent meaning, if it believes that it owns itself, then it betrays the trust, and it comes under the category of, and he fails who corrupts it. It was of this aspect of the trust, therefore, which gives rise to all ascribing of partners to God, evil and misguidance, that the heavens, earth, and mountains were terrified. They were frightened of associating hypothetical partners with God. Indeed, if the I is not known for what it is, an insubstantial aleph, a thread, a hypothetical line, it may burgeon in concealment under the ground, gradually swelling. It will permeate all parts of a human being. Like a gigantic dragon, it will swallow up the human being. That entire person, with all his faculties, will, quite simply, become pure I. Then, too, the I-ness of the human race gives strength to the individual I-ness by means of human racialism and national racialism. And the I, gaining support from the I-ness of the human race, contests the commands of the glorious Maker like Satan. Then, using itself as a yardstick, it compares everyone, everything even, with itself. It divides God Almighty's sovereignty between them and other causes. It falls into ascribing partners to God on a vast scale, indicating the meaning of, to assign partners to God is verily a great transgression. It is just like a man who steals a brass coin from the public treasury. He can only justify his action by agreeing to take a silver coin for each of his friends who is present. So the man who says, I own myself, must believe and say, everything owns itself. Thus, while in this treacherous position, the I is in absolute ignorance. Even if it knows thousands of branches of science, with compounded ignorance, it is most ignorant. For when its senses and thoughts yield the lights of knowledge of the universe, those lights are extinguished because such an I does not find any material within itself with which to confirm, illuminate, and perpetuate them. Whatever it encounters is dyed with the colors that are within it. Even if it encounters pure wisdom, the wisdom takes the form within that I of absolute futility. For the color of an I that is in this condition is atheism and ascribing partners to God. It is denial of God Almighty. If the whole universe is full of shining signs, a dark point in the I hides them from view, as though extinguished. The nature of man and the I within his nature have been explained clearly and in detail in the 11th word, as indicating something other than themselves. They are shown to be a most sensitive scale and accurate measure, an encompassing index and perfect map, a comprehensive mirror, and a fitting calendar and diary for the universe. Since we consider the explanation in that word to be sufficient, and it may be referred to, we curtail and conclude the introduction here. If you have understood the introduction, come, let us enter upon the truth. Consider this. In the world of humanity, from the time of Adam up to now, two great currents, two lines of thought have always been and will so continue. Like two mighty trees, they have spread out their branches in all directions and in every class of humanity. One of them is the line of prophethood and religion, the other the line of philosophy in its various forms. Whenever those two lines have been in agreement and united, that is to say, if the line of philosophy, having joined the line of religion, has been obedient and of service to it, the world of humanity has experienced a brilliant happiness and social life. Whereas, when they have become separated, goodness and light have been drawn to the side of the line of prophethood and religion, and evil and misguidance to the side of the line of philosophy. Now let us find the origin and foundations of those two lines. The line of philosophy that does not obey the line of religion, taking the form of a tree of zaqqum, scatters the darkness of ascribing partners to God and misguidance on all sides. In the branch of the power of intellect, even it produces the fruit of atheism, materialism, and naturalism for the consumption of the human intellect. And in the realm of the power of passion, it pours the tyrannies of Nimrod, Pharaoh, and Shaddad on mankind. And in the realm of the power of animal appetites, it nurtures and bears the fruit of goddesses, idols, and those who claim divinity. The origin of the tree of zaqqum, together with that of the line of prophethood, which is like the tuba tree of worship, are in the two faces of the eye. The blessed branches of the line of prophethood in the garden of the globe of the earth are the following. In the branch of the power of intellect, it has nurtured the fruits of the prophets, the messengers, and the saints. In the branch of the power of repulsion, it has resulted in angelic kings and just rulers. And in the branch of the power of attraction, it has resulted in people of good character and modest and beautiful manner, both generous and gracious. So the line of prophethood has shown how mankind is the most perfect fruit of the universe. We shall explain the two faces of the eye as the root and pivot, and as a principal seed of those two trees. That is to say, prophethood takes hold of one face of the eye, and philosophy takes hold of the other, causing them to diverge. The first face, which is the face of prophethood, it is the origin of sheer worship. That is to say, the eye knows itself to be a bondsman. It realizes that it serves one other than itself. Its essence has only an indicative meaning. That is, it understands that it carries the meaning of another. Its existence is dependent. That is, it believes that its existence is due only to the existence of another, and that the continuance of its existence is due solely to the creativity of that other. Its ownership is illusory. That is, it knows that with the permission of its owner, it has an apparent and temporary ownership. Its reality is shadow-like. That is, a contingent and insignificant shadow that displays the manifestation of a true and necessary reality. As to its function, being a measure and balance for the attributes and functions of its creator, it is conscious service. It is in this way that the prophets and the pure ones and saints, who are from the line of the prophets, regarded the eye, They saw it in this regard and understood the truth. They handed over the sovereignty to the Lord of all sovereignty and concluded that that Lord of all glory has no partner or like, neither in his sovereignty, nor in his dominicality, nor in his divinity. He has no need of assistant or deputy. The key to all things is in his hand. He has absolute power over all things. They also concluded that causes are but an apparent veil. Nature is the set of rules of his creation, a collection of his laws, and the way in which he demonstrates his power. Thus, this shining, luminous, beautiful face is like a living and meaningful seed out of which the glorious Creator has created a tuba tree of worship, the blessed branches of which have adorned with luminous fruits all parts of the world of humanity. By scattering the darkness of all the past, it shows that that long past time is not a place of non-existence and a vast graveyard as philosophy would have it, but is a radiant garden and a place of light for the luminous souls who have departed this world, who have cast off their heavy loads and remained free. It is a luminous, many-runged ascent and an orbit of lights for passing souls in order that they may jump to the future and eternal felicity. As for the second face, it is represented by philosophy. And as for philosophy, it regards the I as carrying no meaning other than its own. That is to say, it declares that the I points only to itself, that its meaning is in itself. It considers that the I works purely on its own account. It regards its existence as necessary and essential, that is, it says that it exists in itself and of itself. It falsely assumes that the I owns its own life and is the real master in its sphere of disposal. It supposes it to be a constant reality, and it considers the I's duty to be perfection of self, which originates from love of self, and likewise philosophies have constructed their modes of thought on many such corrupt foundations. We have given definite proof in our other treatises, especially in the words, and more particularly in the 12th and 25th words, of how baseless and rotten these foundations are. Even men like Plato and Aristotle, Ibn Sina and Farabi, who were the most illustrious representatives and authorities of the line of philosophy, said that the ultimate aim of humanity is to liken themselves to the necessary being, that is to say, to actually resemble him. They thus delivered judgment in the manner of Pharaoh, and, by whipping up I-ness and allowing polytheism to run free in the valleys, opened the way to numerous different ways of associating partners with God, like worship of causes, idols, nature, and the stars. They closed the doors of impotence and weakness, poverty and need, deficiency and imperfection, which are intrinsic to human beings, thus obstructing the road to worship. Being immersed in naturalism and being completely incapable of emerging from associating partners with God, they were unable to find the broad gate of thanks. On the other hand, the line of prophethood considered, in the manner of a worshipper, that the aim of humanity and duty of human beings is to be molded by God-given ethics and good character, and, by knowing their impotence, to seek refuge with divine power, by seeing their weakness, to rely on divine strength, by realizing their poverty, to trust in divine mercy, by perceiving their need, to seek help from divine riches, by seeing their faults, to ask for pardon through divine forgiveness, and by realizing their deficiency, to be glorifiers of divine perfection. So, it is because the philosophy which does not obey the line of religion thus lost its way, that the I took the reins into its own hands and ran into all sorts of misguidance, And out of the eye that was in this position, a tree of Zaqqum sprang forth and engulfed more than half of mankind. Thus, in the branch of power of animal appetites of that tree, the fruits it has presented to mankind are idols and goddesses, because according to the principles of philosophy, power is approved. Might is right is the norm even. It says, all power to the strongest. The winner takes all, and in power there is right. It has given moral support to tyranny, encouraged despots, and urged oppressors to claim divinity. Also, by appropriating the beauty in works of art and the fineness in the decoration and attributing them to the works of art themselves and their decoration, and by not relating them to the manifestation of the sacred and sheer beauty of the maker and fashioner, it says, how beautiful it is, instead of how beautifully made it is, thus regarding each as an idol worthy of worship. Moreover, because it admires a fraudulent, boasting, ostentatious, hypocritical beauty that may be sold to anyone, it has acclaimed the hypocrites and has made idol-like people monuments for its own worshippers. In the branch of power of passion of that tree, it has nurtured the fruits of greater and lesser Nimrods, Pharaohs, and Shaddads ruling over unfortunate mankind. In the branch of power of intellect, it has produced fruits like atheism, materialism, and naturalism in the mind of humanity, and has thrown it into confusion. Now, in order to illuminate this truth, we shall compare the results which are born of the sound foundations of the line of prophethood with those originating from the rotten foundations of the way of philosophy, and shall mention 3 or 4 examples. First example, according to the rule of be molded by God-given ethics, which is one of the principles of the line of prophethood concerning individual life, there is the instruction, be distinguished by God-given morals, and turn towards God Almighty with humility, recognizing your impotence, poverty, and defectiveness, and so be a slave in his presence. Whereas the self-seeking rule of philosophy, try to imitate the necessarily existent one, is mankind's aim for perfection. No, indeed, the essence of humanity has been kneaded with infinite impotence, weakness, poverty, and need, while the essence of the necessarily existent one is infinitely omnipotent, powerful, self-sufficient, and without need. Second example, among the principles of the line of prophethood concerning social life are those of mutual assistance, magnanimity, and generosity. These have been harnessed for the help and assistance of all things from the sun and moon down to even plants. For the assistance of animals, for example, and the help of animals for human beings, and even that of particles of food for the cells of the body. Whereas, among the principles of the line of philosophy concerning social life is that of conflict, which springs from the misuse of their inborn dispositions by a number of tyrants, brutish men, and savage beasts. Indeed, they have accepted this principle at so fundamental a level and at such a general one that they have idiotically declared life is a conflict. Third example, one of the valuable results and exalted principles of the line of prophethood concerning divine unity is, if a thing has unity, it must proceed from only one. That is, since each thing in itself and all things collectively have unity, they therefore must be the creation of a single being. Whereas, one of the beliefs of ancient philosophy is, from one proceeds. That is, from one person, only one single thing can proceed. Everything else proceeds from him by means of intermediaries. This misleading principle of philosophy, which is stained by associating partners with God, presents the absolutely self-sufficient and omnipotent one as being in need of impotent intermediaries, and gives all causes and intermediaries a sort of partnership in his dominicality. It attributes to the glorious Creator the title of Prime Mover, which in fact indicates the status of creature. Moreover, it allots the rest of his sovereignty to causes and intermediaries, thus opening the way to associating partners with him in a most comprehensive manner. If the Illuminists, Ishraqiyun, who were preeminent philosophers, uttered nonsense like this, you can imagine how much more absurd will be what inferior philosophers like the materialists and naturalists say.